This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. After looking at it for more than 10 minutes, he finally finished reading the complicated materials one by one. The shock in his heart was difficult to calm down. Most of them were 8th tier materials, and even a large number of 9th tier materials. He also needed an 8th tier purple cauldron. What did he need so many high-grade materials for? Could it be that he was going to refine 8th tier profound armament medicinal pills? This thought flashed through his mind and he immediately eliminated it. He must have wanted to use high-grade materials to refine weapons. This way, he could improve the quality of profound weapons and medicinal pills. However, it would be too wasteful to use 8th or 9th tier materials. Young Master Yun, Han Xian said calmly, I'm afraid you're going to empty the Purple Cloud Trading Company with these things. Yunxiao was a little embarrassed as well. He smiled and said, Han Xian, you can pay as you see fit. I can't let you suffer any losses. After we go to Songhua City, I will definitely make Ling pay you back double. I can only provide 1/5 of these materials for now. Han Xian said. As for this 8th grade purple cauldron, I do have one, but the Purple Cloud Trade Union has great use for it, so I can't give it to you. As for primordial stones, I can spare 80 million mid-grade primordial stones for young Master Yun's use for the time being. Oh. You have an 8th tier purple cauldron? Yunxiao was surprised. He had never expected the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce to have such a thing, and it was just listed in the list of materials. He did not expect it to really be there. Besides, the fact that they could gather 1/5 of those materials and 80 million mid-grade primordial stones was enough to show the sincerity of the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce, not to mention that the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce was in a precarious situation. What's the use of that purple cauldron? Can you tell me? Yunxiao still had a thought in his mind. Han Xian saw that he wasn't willing to give up, so she told him frankly, this purple cauldron is related to the fate of the Purple Cloud Trade Union, so I can't give it to you. I'll give this purple cauldron to a certain lord as a gift and ask him to help me. I spent several times the amount of money to buy this purple cauldron from the Myriad Treasures store. It was also one of the reasons why I came to Manhua City in person, and it was a desperate bet. Is there any big shot in Southfire City? Yunxiao asked with a frown. Is there any big shot here? Han Xian nodded seriously and said, this lord is currently in seclusion. According to my calculations, he should be coming out today. I'll be bringing the purple cauldron and other gifts to meet this lord later. Would young Master Yun be interested in coming with me? Perhaps if this lord is happy, he can give you a few pointers. In that case, your chances of winning the Merchant Union's alchemy and martial arts competition in a month's time will be greatly increased. Yunxiao said. All right, I'll go with Han Xian and see what kind of lord can give me some advice. Han Xian saw that he seemed to be unconvinced, so she smiled and said, you'll know when you meet Yun Shi. She made an inviting gesture and smiled. The Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce only has 3 scoops of Starry Sky Ancient Tea. We made 6 cups at most, but young Master Yun drank half of it. At the thought of this fragrant tea, Yunxiao immediately felt refreshed and praised, it's been many years since I've had such a good taste. I didn't come to Southfire City in vain. This? Han Xian was stunned for a moment before she smiled in disbelief. So, young Master Yun, you've drunk tea that's comparable to this Starry Sky Ancient Tea before? Yunxiao did not comment, but slowly tasted it with a smile. The true dragon's saliva was also of great benefit to the body. After the tea flowed into his stomach, coupled with the nourishment of the dragon's saliva, he felt an indescribable comfort. His dantian felt like boiling water, and his vital qi began to boil. It rushed into his extraordinary meridians, and his strength continued to increase. Han Xian was slightly taken aback. When she sensed the fluctuations of Yunxiao's primordial energy, she said happily, young Master Yun, hurry up and cultivate. It seems like you're about to make a breakthrough. It's not that easy, Yunxiao said with a wry smile. I haven't accumulated enough primordial qi. Han Xian, give me a few million primordial stones first, and I might be able to make a breakthrough. He had long reached the peak of the 4-star martial grandmaster level. He was just a hair's breadth away from it, but he could not get past it. The vital qi he needed was too much. Han Xian also understood the importance of vital qi during a breakthrough, so she hurriedly went out and brought out a pile of vital stones, all of which were supreme grade. As long as she could help Yunxiao improve a little, she would not be stingy with primordial stones. The Purple Cloud Trade Union was in a precarious situation, and she could not let go of any hope of being saved. Yunxiao felt the surging primordial energy fluctuation spreading out of the storage bag in front of him. Overjoyed, he slapped down with his palm, shattering all the supreme-grade primordial stones in the storage bag, then swallowed them. The storage bag burst, and a vast amount of primordial energy poured out, but it was pulled by the soul power around him and could not spread out, so it all rushed into his body. Han Xian was taken aback by his big move, but she was soon dumbfounded as she watched Yunxiao swallow the vast amount of primordial qi in just a few breaths. At the same time, Yunxiao's body swelled up a little, and his smooth skin glowed with a warm light. His muscles grew larger and larger, making him look like a strong man. A surging power came out of his body, which made Han Xian feel a little afraid. He was definitely not as simple as an ordinary 4-stars martial grandmaster. Boom boom boom. There was a slight muffled sound in his body. Under the impact of enough primordial qi, the 4-star bottleneck was easily broken through, and the condition of his body directly stepped into that of a 5-stars martial grandmaster. At this moment, his body also seized the remaining primordial qi. After absorbing it, it was immediately digested. The power continued to accumulate in his body. At this moment, his body was not even inferior to a 5th-tier profound artifact, and it was enough to resist it. Han Xian looked at the empty storage bag and said in shock, That's 1,000 supreme-grade primordial stones, which is equivalent to 10 million mid-grade primordial stones. He didn't explode to death? 1,000 supreme-grade primordial stones. Just give me low-grade primordial stones, Yunxiao said, his heart aching. For me, there's not much difference between supreme-grade and low-grade primordial stones. So many supreme-grade primordial stones, I'm afraid that's all the stock of the Purple Cloud Trade Union. Han Xian was still in shock, but when she heard Yunxiao's words, her face changed and her heart ached. Although the exchange rate between primordial stones was measured in 100-fold, 100 superior-grade primordial stones, or even 10,000 mid-grade primordial stones, could not be exchanged for a supreme-grade primordial stone. This was because the purer the primeval stone, the more irreplaceable it would be during the crucial moment of breaking through. It was for this reason that Han Xian had thrown supreme-grade primordial stones to Yunxiao. But, she did not expect him to absorb all of them, and even said that he would be able to absorb them no matter what quality they were. It was as if he had finished the food that others had painstakingly prepared, and then smacked his mouth to say that it didn't have any taste, no different from eating plain white rice. Looking at Han Xuan's dark face, Yunxiao felt a little embarrassed as well, so he said awkwardly, I will definitely return the 1,000 supreme-grade primordial stones to Han Xian in the future. Han Xian came back to her senses and forced a smile. You're welcome, young Master Yun. As long as you can keep Tianyuan Trading Company's position, the Purple Cloud Trading Company will do its best to help you. At the same time, I'm also very pleased. Although young Master Yun only has the cultivation base of a 5-stars martial grandmaster, judging from the situation of absorbing vitality stones just now, his true combat strength is definitely not only at this level, right? Yunxiao laughed and said, it's SOSO. It's really hard to say. Yunxiao did not know how to answer. He could not tell them that he had suppressed several martial emperors with a wave of his hand when he was still in Yanwu. If he did, they would think he was a lunatic. Han Xian naturally thought that he didn't want to reveal it, so she smiled embarrassedly. It's only right to keep it a secret. Han Xian, you've asked too much. Yunxiao smiled wryly and was speechless. He really could not explain it. At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. Wu Chen walked in with an ashen face. Her body was still surging with elemental energy fluctuations. She was clearly in a bad mood. Wu Chen, what's going on? Han Xian frowned. Wu Chen's lips moved a few times as he gave Yunxiao a look, wanting to say something but stopping himself. Young Master Yun is not an outsider, Han Xian said with a dark expression. You can speak your mind. Only then did Wu Chen open his mouth, and a huge wave of anger gushed out. He said angrily, President, those bastards of the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce are trying to make things difficult for us. They know our current situation and they directly said that the teleportation formation is damaged and is being repaired. I asked how long it would take to fix it, but they said they didn't know. Han Xuan's expression was also extremely unsightly. She gritted her teeth and said, Damn the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce, you're hitting me when I'm down. Yunxiao's brows furrowed for a moment, then relaxed as he chuckled and said, The two of you do not need to be angry. It is normal for people to push a wall that is down, so it is good to see through it. I'll go to the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce myself and cast off my identity as a member of the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce. Maybe I can borrow the teleportation array once. Then I guess young Master Yun will have to figure it out on his own, Han Xian said, a little embarrassed. The Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce was so powerful that even the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce didn't dare to go against it, let alone the two women. The Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce only showed respect to them for the sake of the merchant union. If they didn't show respect to them, they had nothing to say. Guild leader, after we get through this crisis, we'll set up a large-scale teleportation formation in Southfire City. Wu Yan said angrily. Han Xian nodded. That's for later. Let's get through this first. Young Master Yun, she said to Yunxiao, that lord may have come out of seclusion now. Would you like to come with me to visit him? Very good, Yunxiao said. I also want to see what kind of extraordinary people are hidden in this Southfire City. There was no respect in his tone at all. Han Xian frowned slightly, but she didn't take it to heart. Most young people were proud, not to mention a young and successful expert like him. It was natural for him to be a little headstrong. Jin Xian gave Wu Chen a few instructions in a low voice. Wu Chen glanced at Yunxiao, then turned and left. Soon, she took out a storage bag and handed it to Yunxiao, saying, all the materials that Lord Yunxiao needs are in there. The Purple Cloud Trade Union can provide them. There are also 100 million medial-grade primordial stones. Jin Xian had meant that 80 million was enough, but after seeing Yunxiao absorb the primordial stones, she raised another 20 million. Yunxiao immediately took it and said, many thanks. He was not pretentious. The Purple Cloud Trade Union had helped him so much at this time, and he would definitely remember this favor. As the saying went, gratitude is beyond words. Let's go, Jin Xian said. If we miss out on that master again, we'll have to bear a grudge. The three of them left the Purple Cloud Trade Union and went through several streets in Manhua City before they arrived at a small courtyard. There were no guards in front of the courtyard and it was very clean. There was a small fence door. Mi Xian gently pushed it open and walked in. There was an old stone cauldron in the front yard. It was very old and covered with green moss. A young man who looked like a manservant was dozing off in front of Zhong Yuan. As soon as he saw someone coming, he hurriedly raised his spirit and took a look. He immediately smiled and said, so it's Sister Jin Xian. You've come at the right time. Yunxiao's eyes swept over the young man. He was dressed like an ordinary waiter, about 11 or 12 years old, but he was faintly emitting soul power fluctuations. He was a second-tier alchemist. He was shocked and thought to himself, could this man be an alchemist? A smile appeared on Jin Xian's face as he said joyfully, timely? Does this mean that Master Mo has come out of seclusion? The young man smiled and said, Master has indeed come out of seclusion, but he's a bit dispirited. His face turned slightly cold and he said softly, Master, you're right. Master has instructed that if elder sister Jin Xian comes to find him, he will not see her. What? Jin Xian was shocked and said anxiously, how could this be? Please inform Master Mo that Jin Xian has an important matter to discuss. The disciple sighed and waved his hand. Sister Jin Xian, you'd better go back. Don't make things difficult for me. My master said he won't see her, so he won't see her. It's useless for you to keep pestering me. Wu Qin was slightly angry. Master Mo, what do you mean? In Southfire City, the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce has always been fair to Grandmaster, so they have been sending you generous gifts every month. Is it really so difficult for you to even meet with them after all these years? The disciple's expression changed and he angrily said, "You're the one who wanted to give it to me. What does it have to do with my master? There are countless people fighting to give gifts to my master every month. I've given you enough face every month. Don't be insatiable here." He sneered. What he meant was that he was giving them face by accepting their gifts. Wu Chen's entire body trembled with anger. The essence energy fluctuations became stronger and stronger, and he could not help but explode. Jin Xian hurriedly stopped her and took out a storage bag from his ring. He stepped forward and stuffed it into the disciple's hands. He pleaded, "I'll have to trouble this master to help me report and say a few words of friendship." A trace of hesitation flashed across the disciple's face. Finally, he threw the storage bag back and snorted coldly, "Who do you think I am? My master said he won't see you, so he won't see you." Yunxiao could not stand it anymore, so he spread out his divine sense and searched the back of the courtyard. Immediately, he saw a bronze cauldron standing in the backyard, exuding a warm residual heat. It was obviously used not long ago, and it was an 8th-tier cauldron. Even though it had only barely reached the 8th step, it was still undoubtedly the 8th step. Yunxiao's heart stirred. He happened to be short of an 8th-tier cauldron. If he could not give Mi Xian's cauldron to him, it would be a good idea to find a way to take it away and use it for the time being. Following the large cauldron forward, there was a spacious room. His divine sense extended directly into it without any restraint. Suddenly, he felt an extremely strong soul power blocking it, and even directly backfired. Oh no. He's an alchemist. And the strength of his soul power is at least at the 8th rank. Yunxiao was taken aback, and he hurriedly retracted his divine sense. He was puzzled. There were no good cultivation resources in Southfire City, which was the border between the two regions, so how could there be an 8th-tier alchemist here? Could it be for the Li Fire golden crystal? It was unlikely. Although it was precious, if an 8th-tier alchemist needed it, the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce would be very happy to provide it, even if it was a special supply. Who is it? A stream of divine sense immediately rushed out of the soul power in the backyard, trying to take Yunxiao down, but it was in vain, as he had already disappeared without a trace. In the room, a man who had been resting with his eyes closed opened his eyes in surprise and muttered to himself, "To actually dare to spy on me, that divine sense must be at least 6th tier, but how could a 6th tier divine sense escape from my pursuit?" He was extremely puzzled. Suddenly, he had an idea. He immediately opened his mouth and sent the sound waves out. The expression of the disciple in the central courtyard grew longer and longer, and he almost wanted to drive him away. He coldly mocked, "Don't even think about going in today, even if you talk to the heavens. Sister Jin Xian, if you weren't a great beauty, I would have thrown you out long ago," he said with a light smile. "If you can't stay in the Purple Cloud Trade Union any longer, you can come to me." Jin Xian was stunned and ignored his frivolous words. Instead, she pondered over the meaning of his words and seemed to contain some information. She said in shock, "Could it be, could it be?" Yunxiao was also stunned. This kid is only 11 or 12 years old, but why is he so perverted? Wu Qin only felt extremely humiliated. As the president of the Chamber of Commerce, she had begged a young man and was even insulted. She wanted to kill herself on the spot to apologize. The disciple seemed to want to ridicule something more, but suddenly his ears twitched a few times. Suddenly, a stunned look flashed in his eyes, and his face became strange. He said, "My master, please come in for a walk." Jin Xian and Wu Qin were stunned for a moment, thinking that they had heard wrong. Jin Xian asked in a daze, "What did you just say?" The disciple also suspected that he had misheard, but he had indeed just received his master's order. Thinking of his previous behavior, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He forced a smile and said, "My master has invited Sister Jin Xian, guild leader Wu Qin, and this big brother in. Yunxiao sighed inwardly, this young man will definitely be a sinister and vicious man in the future. He began to feel apprehensive. Could it be that Master Mo had guessed that it was done by someone from the outside and wanted to call him in to cause trouble? But, he was not afraid of anything, and he did not take a mere 8th-tier alchemist seriously, so he was not too worried. On the other hand, Mi Xian looked nervous. With the previous incident and the information that this disciple had vaguely revealed, it seemed that things were extremely bad. She was originally full of confidence, but she suddenly became hesitant. The disciple put on a harmless face and said with a smile, "What are you worried about, Sister Jin Xian? If you have any thoughts, you can directly tell my master." Jin Xian nodded. Just as he was about to enter, the disciple suddenly extended his hand to stop him. He extended his hand in embarrassment and smiled. Sister Jinxuan's storage bag was pretty. Jin Xian was taken aback but immediately understood what he meant. She laughed bitterly in his heart. She took out the storage bag from before and stuffed it into his hands. The disciple then stretched his hand back and made an inviting gesture. He smiled and said, "The three of you, please." Wu Chen was furious. She snorted angrily behind Jin Xian, "In the future, I will never give a single primeval stone to this Master Mo." Jin Xian's expression changed and she turned around to glare at her. Only then did Wu Chen realize that he had said something wrong. She quickly stuck out his tongue and retracted his head. An alchemist's divine sense was extremely powerful, and Jin Xian was a little worried that this disciple had heard Wu Chen's words. But, when she saw that Wu Chen was still smiling and extending his hand to invite them in, she was slightly relieved. She walked in first, followed by Wu Chen and Yunxiao. When the crowd saw the 8th-tier cauldron, they walked into the room where Yunxiao's divine sense was blocked. A man was sitting there, burning incense and pouring tea, holding a scroll and carefully reading it. The man's temperament looked like he was only 30 years old, but the layers of wrinkles on his face revealed his old age, and his eye sockets were slightly sunken. Alchemists spent all their time on the study of alchemy, and their bodies and soul power were constantly being consumed, so they looked much older than ordinary people. Of course, there were some exceptions. For example, Feiyang had always been very handsome in his previous life. It was all because of his talent. He did not need much energy and time to achieve good results. Yunxiao was secretly surprised. He was indeed an 8th-tier alchemist at the age of 30, which meant that he had amazing talent. He should not be an unknown person. When Jin Xian saw this person, she immediately became respectful. She stepped forward and bowed. Jin Xian pays his respects to Master Mo. Wu Chen also lowered her head, but she was cursing in his heart. Yunxiao's face was calm as he stood lazily beside Jin Xian, his expression unreadable. "President Jin Xian, you're too kind. Please take a seat," Mo Huayuan said. Then, his eyes fell directly on Yunxiao, and his pupils constricted slightly. He was obviously stunned for a moment, and a strange look appeared on his face. He had wanted to check the other party's soul power cultivation base, but he was clearly blocked by a force. With his cultivation at the 8th step, such a situation shouldn't have happened. This brat must have a treasure that could isolate divine sense. Mo Huayuan immediately came to this conclusion. Jin Xian didn't sit down, but carefully stood at the side and pleaded, "Master Mo, the Wanwan you mentioned last time." Mo Huayuan waved his hand and interrupted, "There's no need to talk about what happened last time. The situation has changed and I can't say it clearly. You should leave and think of another way. If it weren't for the fact that the Purple Cloud Trade Union has been very respectful to me all these years, I wouldn't have met you today." Jin Xian was anxious. He gave a long bow and pleaded, "I hope that Master Mo can help me. I have spent thousands of gold to obtain this item. I hope Master Mo can take a look." Mo Huayuan was expressionless as he said, "Even if you take out a 9th-tier profound armament, it's useless." Jin Xian spread out his hands, and a purple light shot out from his ring and landed on the table in front of Mo Huayuan. An exquisite purple cauldron was exuding an intimidating spiritual aura. The cauldron's legs were actually carved with 3 half-naked girls of different shapes and postures. They were either using their shoulders or their hands to support the cauldron's body. At a glance, it exuded a strange splendor.